Let's bring in Newt Gingrich, Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, and author of a book comes out tomorrow. It's called Trump and the American Future. It's a good one. There's the cover right there. Mr. Speaker, good morning to you. You know, as the Attorney General detailed right there, that has been China's business plan for quite a while. If you want to do business as an American company in China, they're going to shake you down for the secrets. How do we change that?
Well, they also just steal secrets by using cyber attack. They have an entire unit of the People's Liberation Army just outside of Beijing, whose only job is to steal American secrets. So the former Director of National Intelligence under Obama, Jim Clapper, said at one point they steal about $500 billion a year. That is, they steal more in secrets than all the sales we make to China combined. I think the Attorney General is right, but he left out one thing, which is if they get to be the technologically dominant country in the world, they will dominate the world. We're in a contest now with a totalitarian dictatorship, the Chinese Communist Party, whose specific goal is to dominate the entire planet by just sheer mass. They have 1.3 billion people. If they can also have the most advanced technology, it'll be very, very hard to deal with them. And I think this is really a matter of life and death. In fact, I have an entire chapter in my new book on Trump and the American Future, which talks about China and the threat from China.
Yeah, and it's real. And Joe Biden just a few months ago says, come on, man, the China's not a threat. We can eat their lunch. Remember that. He's now the nominee, according to reports. We don't see much of him. Meanwhile, the war on history continues. You probably don't know that from where you are, perhaps, but George Washington Memorial was defaced over in Baltimore. The Francis Scott Key statue was taken down over in San Francisco. Ulysses S. Grant statue. I believe he was a leader of the Union Army. They took down his statue, and now they want to remove Teddy Roosevelt's statue in front of the Museum of Natural History. But the Museum of Natural History president is the one doing it, saying, quote, over the last few weeks, our museum community has been profoundly moved by the ever-widening movement for racial justice that has emerged after the killing of George Floyd. We have watched as the attention of the world and the country has increasingly turned to statues as powerful and hurtful symbols of systemic racism. Simply put, time has come to move on. So goodbye, Teddy Roosevelt, standing on a horse in front of an American Indian and an African American. Your reaction?
Well, look, I'm a huge fan of the American Museum of Natural History. In fact, Calista and I have a small scholarship there for paleontology students. But I think she's probably right for two reasons. One, if you look at the statue in its whole, it's really a perfect example of the white supremacist feeling of the era of Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson, et cetera. Two, if they don't move it somewhere safe, it will sooner or later be destroyed because it's so clear. And I'm a huge Theodore Roosevelt fan. That particular statue is clearly out of its time, but the answer is to put it somewhere as a teaching device, not to destroy it. And the other examples you made, you know, I wrote a piece this week, a newsletter that you can get at Gingrich 360 for free, and I said, you're dealing here with barbarians. Grant was not only the Union general who defeated the Confederacy and the slave states, he is also the president who sent in the Union Army to break up the Ku Klux Klan in South Carolina. It was Democrats who were defending the Ku Klux Klan and segregation, while the Republicans were actually willing to use the federal military in order to break it up. So you have people who are totally ignorant. They don't know anything. They're out there destroying things. And they remind me a lot of the Taliban when it destroyed the two giant Buddhist statues in 2001. These people are anti-civilization. And in places like Seattle, we need to understand, no one has the right to stop the police from going to help somebody who has been shot. When this kind of stuff happened in Mississippi in the civil rights era, we sent in the FBI, they tracked down the people, and they ultimately locked them all up. Sooner or later, we're going to have to defend those Americans who are being held hostage by a radical group in Seattle.
So, Newt, tell us about your new book, Trump and the American Future.
Well, I wrote it because I felt that we were going to need a handbook of how to win the arguments this summer and fall. There's been so much false media attacking the president that when you put together what the real choices are between the machine of Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer versus what President Trump has done, I think that basically my book, Trump and the American Future, gives anybody who's pro-Trump a really good tool to be able to win the argument with their friends and to be able to understand how to put in context what's going on. And I think that it's really a key decisive moment. This may be the most important election since 1860 and the election of Abraham Lincoln. The choice between a Biden, Pelosi, Schumer future and a Trump, McConnell, and McCarthy future, that gap is so gigantic. And I tried to capture that in Trump and the American Future as a way of helping people understand why this election matters far more than most elections.
Well, we're all looking for new things to read, and the book comes out tomorrow. Once again, Trump and the American Future.
Thanks.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for joining us today from Rome.
Thank you.
Great talking to you.